It's Michelle from Cozy Egg, and today is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, and this is episode 125. Hard to believe that I've done 125 of these, but here we are. So if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And of course, if you are brand new here, this is primarily a channel about cross stitch, sometimes quilting, sometimes knitting, usually books, and whatever other ramblings there happen to be. So I'm happy that you're here, and yeah, let's get to it. So it's been a few weeks since my last video. I think my last one was right around the first week of January. And so, you know, it's been about a month. In my last video, I basically just kind of recapped November and December. And so I'm pretty much going to do the same thing for this video. I'm going to kind of recap January. I have been doing some more vlogging, so I will, add that in so we can kind of take a look back at, what my January looked like. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about what my plans for 2023 are with regards to my stitching, yeah, all that good stuff. So, yeah, let's just dive in. So the first thing I want to talk about, because it just happened this afternoon, I went to a talk that was done by the Royal School of Needlework. They do online talks every so often, and I just happened to see the notification that they were having Michelle Carragher doing a talk, an online talk today, and I could not sign up fast enough. So if you don't know who Michelle Carragher is, she is an embroiderer extraordinaire. She did the embroidery on the costumes that were used in Game of Thrones. She has also been working on House of the Dragon. Very, very elaborate, intricate, gorgeous embroideries. And she works closely with, the costume designer. So she talked a lot about that. She talked a lot about kind of how she got where she is, and some of the training that she's had, that sort of thing. And some of the other movies and shows that she's worked on. She worked on The Nevers, which I've talked about before. Love that show. She did say that she worked on costumes, on doing embroidery for the costumes for season 2. So hopefully at some point we will get to see season 2. But very exciting. And my understanding, this is the first one of these that I've been to from the Royal School of Needlework. But my understanding is that they record these, and so you can view them later. So I think they have them all up on their website, and there's probably a minimal fee, and then you can, view it at your leisure. So I highly recommend the Michelle Carragher one. I haven't seen any of the others, but I'm sure they're all equally fantastic. But I was just absolutely thrilled to see that they were doing one with her. So yeah, I took a little time out of my afternoon. So it was at 7 p.m. UK time, which was 1 p.m. my time, Central Time. And so I just took, an hour and a half out of my day and popped on Zoom and got to listen to Michelle Carragher talk about embroidery on Game of Thrones. So yeah, super fun. So yeah, I did that. And you know, it's got me kind of fired up about, you know, learning more about embroidery, particularly surface embroidery and stump work. Those are both two things, and gold work, you know, are things that have been long on my list of things that I really want to try, that I would really like to learn and develop some proficiency at. So it's got me really fired up thinking about that. So, yeah, very exciting. So, let's talk a little bit about 2023 before I jump into kind of what I've worked on and all of that good stuff. Actually, skip that. I'm going to revisit that momentarily. We'll get into that in a bit. I'm going to start with my whips and what I worked on in January. So, at the end of the year, and I may have mentioned this, I may have not, I have zero recollection of what I talked about in my last video. But at the end of the year, I needed a little break from Jane Anne. And so I decided to work on His Eyes on the Sparrow for a little bit. And I haven't worked on this in a little while. The last couple of times I've worked on it have been really nice because I had gotten super burnt out on it, and honestly, I was at the time that I was working on it, when I got so burnt out on it, part of, I think, what caused the burnout was well, I'm just gonna, never mind. We're just gonna skip right past that. So anyway, His Eyes on the Sparrow. So I worked on this a little bit, my little bird's nest of thread. I am stitching this on 48 count Gonder linen that has been overdyed. I'm using the called for threads, overdyed cottons. Mine does look quite saturated, and I think that's because it's on 48 count, and I love it. So there's where I'm at. So I've got that top third finished. I skipped over the verse because I'm going to change that, and I do feel like I talked about this. Maybe I didn't. I recorded my last video twice, so I may have talked about it in one video and not the other. Anyway, so I worked down here in this area, and let me see if I can get it a little closer for you. So I did this red bird, this squirrel, this little bird, this goose, and the lion. I think I did all of those. This last time I picked it up and worked on it. So really love this. I love the colors. I love all the little animals and the motifs. It's just really a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I worked on that for a little bit, maybe a week or so, if that. So took a little break. The other thing that I worked on, other than Jane Anne, which I will show you in a minute, I worked on tombstone spots by the Primitive Needle for dark 13 stitching. Emily and I host dark 13 stitching every month on the 13th of the month. That is Emily C. Eclectic Possessions. And this January, of course, was a double whammy in that the 13th of the month was also Friday the 13th. So we decided to get out Tombstone Spots by the Primitive Needle and work on that. We started this last year on May 13th, which was the only Friday the 13th of 2022. So it was the perfect thing to get out and work on for Friday the 13th. Emily went kind of gangbusters on hers, and I think she's almost done. I only worked on mine, I think, like through the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I didn't get a ton done, but you know, it's something. But I really love this piece. Really enjoy working on it. And I am using the called for threads, which are Weeks Dye Works. And I just love them. They're all these sort of mossy greens, and then this bright sort of pistachio green, this curry yellow. Love it. Love it, love it. So those are the colors. And I'm stitching this on 40 count Affogato by Fiber on a Whim. And I chose this because it has these sort of mossy green kind of areas, which I thought were perfect, not only with the colors, but, you know, tombstone. So absolutely love this. Basically what I worked on was I got this whole motif done, this sort of Greek key motif, and then I got these little things up here done. And that's it. That's all I got done. But that's okay. It's something. So I think this is actually the top. This is obviously the right-hand side. So lots more to go. But really love this. Really enjoy stitching on it every time I stitch on it. And I am hoping to get this back out for the 13th of this month and see if I can make some more progress on it. So that's that. Oops, I just zipped up my threads in my zipper. No good. All right, Jane Ann. So I intended to pull this out of the Q-snaps before I got on here, and I forgot. So I'm just going to do it now. I've been meaning to take this off the Q-snaps and take a photo of it for a while now, and I just don't. So what can I say? So here's where I am on Jane Ann. I'm not going to take it totally out. I'll just take this one thing, this one side off. So here's where I'm at. These first 5 rows that you can see here, that is the top row of pages. And so I've now moved into the second row of pages, which I'm really thrilled about. I think I mentioned last time that I had some major errors that had to be ripped out and restitched, and yeah, that's why we took a little break. That was part of why we took a little break. So I'm really pleased with how it's looking though. I am enjoying working on her. And I'll be honest, after just using one thread, like one color, stitching monochromatically, when I went to stitch on Sparrow, I was like, what's with all this color changing nonsense? Because I was not used to it. But yeah, I'm really liking how it's looking. And one of the things that I was noticing last night is, you get these alphabets that are, like 2 stitches wide for each vertical area. But then you move into these alphabets that are just, 1 stitch width. And I love the difference in, how bold it is, how dark it is, versus how light this is. It really, aside from the fact that it's a bunch of different, types of fonts, of alphabets and sizing, that change in, the width of the letters themselves gives you, kind of a textural quality, which I think is really interesting. So you have these like hard, dark areas, and then you've got these lighter, more delicate areas, which I think is really interesting. So I have primarily been working on Jane Anne, as you can see. I had to restitch like, this whole row and half of this whole row. I mean, yeah, I had to rip a whole lot out, but we're back on track. We're moving forward. I got the first row of pages done. I'm working on the second row of pages and moving along. So, good deal. Very happy with that. So, that is what I have been working on in January, and a little preview as to what I'm going to work on in February, which is Jane Anne and probably tombstone spots for dark 13 stitching. So that's my plan. So why don't I maybe show you a little bit of what I got up to in January, and then we'll talk about kind of my 2023 plans. How about that? All right. 2023 plans. So the first thing I want to talk about is this is my second year of doing a digital planner. I had previously been using a bullet journal as a planner. I was doing kind of a hybrid planner bullet journal kind of situation, but I was doing, you know, hard copy, like term, you know, etc. Last year I switched over to a digital planner with the hopes that, you know, it would be easier because it would be easier for me to duplicate pages. It would be easier setup wise, and it would be easier for me to shuffle things around if I wanted to reorder things, add stuff in, take stuff out, whatever. Because that was kind of my limitation with, you know, the physical bullet journal, is that I got kind of, you know, it was what it was. And if I wanted a calendar or a habit tracker or what have you, I had to create it. So went to a digital planner last year with mixed results. Part of the problem that I had with it was that I forget to use it, because it's not a book that's like sitting on my desk, which is also part of what I was trying to, you know, get away from, so that I had less things sitting on my desk. But because it's not a thing sitting on my desk, I forget to use it. So mixed results last year. So this year I thought I'm gonna give it another shot. But at the same time I thought, I'm also going to do a separate cross-stitch journal, and I'm also going to do a digital journal for that, because maybe if I'm using that, it'll kind of get me more in the habit of using my digital planner for my day-to-day stuff. We'll see. So far, mixed results. So what I ended up with is, you know, I kind of looked at all of the, you know, digital planners, cross-stitch planners that are out there. And the one that I ended up with was the Witchy Stitcher Deluxe cross-stitch journal. She has kind of a standard one and then a deluxe one, and the deluxe one just had more stuff in it, so I was like, I'm just gonna get that, because it's reusable. I mean, you can use it, you know, from year to year, so why not? So there's the planner. You can see it's got all these tabs here. So it's got tabs for projects, sales. It's got a, you know, a DMC inventory, a shopping list, a calendar, stickers, and then extras. So under projects, you know, it's got like a project tracker, and so you can put in all of your information about your project and a photo of it and notes and stuff. I only put in 4 projects. That's it. That's all I put in. I put in Jane Anne. I put in my Dracula book cover, because that's, you know, a focus. I put in tombstone spots, and I put in His Eyes on the Sparrow. And that's it, because I figured those are kind of my main focus pieces. So that's all I'm going to put in here. Obviously no sales for me. I don't care about the DMC list because I have that in a spreadsheet. The calendar, I'm not really using, but I am using some of the There is a UFO tracker, which I will talk about here in a minute. And then like it's got all these extras and stuff in here. So it's got, you know, a whip rotation, a stitch diary. It's got, you know, your days stitched on a project, pattern stash, fabric stash, floss stash, you know, all of that stuff, grid paper, dotted paper, blank paper. There's stickers, you know, and of course they're all spooky, which, you know me. So yeah, so I got this and I thought, well, you know, I'll give it a shot. Like I said, mixed results so far. But, you know, what are you gonna do? I'm determined to figure this out. So, and I can put my show notes in here so that I can remember what I'm supposed to talk about. So I did that, like I said, to try to kind of keep myself a little bit on track, and to try to encourage me to use my digital planner more, because I need to use something, and not using anything is not working for me. So I'm gonna give it another try, and if it doesn't pan out, then I'm just gonna go back to a hard copy because that obviously works. So I wanted to sort of segue into that because I want to talk about my 2023 plans. So, you know, I kind of come into every year with, I want to work on my whips and I want to get my whips down. And I talked a little bit, you know, at the end of last year about, you know, kind of looking at starting with, you know, trying to knock out the smaller things and then, you know, work on getting some of the bigger things, etc. But then it dawned on me that I'm sort of setting myself up for failure if I'm going to focus on my whips and trying to get those knocked down when I'm trying to stitch on a model. And so I don't really have the opportunity to stitch on stuff for me. So I'm trying to stitch on this model. I have other models that I need to stitch as well. So trying to, you know, set myself up for, we're going to whittle down this whip list is just, you know, it's not going to happen. And then I'm going to be disappointed and frustrated with myself. So I thought, what can I focus on instead that would be helpful? And a couple of things happened that sort of brought this to the forefront for me. So the first thing that happened is, you know, a friend of mine had said, you know, you have that big project roll full of pieces that are finished that are not framed. You should do a Flosstube and show all the stuff that's in that project roll. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. You know, why not? Rather than a whip parade, that, you know, that sounded a little more interesting to me, especially if I'm not going to be working my whips. So I thought, oh yeah, I could do that. And then in December, January, I don't know, sometime, all the days run together. We had a big plumbing leak, and the plumber had to get to the pipes that are in the wall inside my craft closet where all my stuff is. So I had to empty that closet out twice. So when I emptied it out the first time, I was like, well, I've got all this stuff out. I'm going to go through it and, see what's going on here. And one of the things that became very clear to me is I have so many things that I have finished stitching, but that are not framed or that are not like FFO'd, like stacks of things. And I thought, you know what? I really need to focus on getting these things, this bag of stuff FFO'd. I need to focus on framing these pieces that are done so that I can have them out and I can enjoy them, and then they're out of the closet. Because the sheer amount of things is part of what, makes me crazy. Because I've got all these whips, I've got stuff that's kitted up, I've got, quilting stuff, cross stitch stuff, knitting stuff, and then on top of it, I've got finished stuff that's in the closet. So I was like, I think that's what my focus is going to be for 2023, is trying to get these things either FFO'd, like non-framed finishing, or framed. Now, I don't have a whole lot of money to be sending stuff to, fancy schmancy, framing place, and spending all that kind of money. I don't have that. So this is going to be DIY, and it's probably going to be in, short, small increments. But if I can at least work towards that, I think that would be huge, huge. So that is my focus for 2023. If I get, some whips knocked out, great. That is gravy, because I got to focus on these models. But more importantly, if I can get some of these finishes done, because they're finished. They're finished. They need to not be in the closet. So we got to get them out of here. So with that in mind, instead of doing a whip parade, I'm going to do a finish parade. And I'm going to show you the things that are in this project roll. And then next time, I'm going to show you the things that are in my bag of stuff that need to be FFO'd, like the non-frame stuff. The stuff that I'm not going to frame, that I'm going to do something else with. So, this is my project. It's so big, I can't look. I got stuff hanging out. I can barely even tie it. It's full. And this beautiful project roll was made for me by Sylvia of Running with Needles and Scissors. Go check out her market releases, especially the birds, because those birds must have. So, all right. And while I was so one of the things that I did was in my Witchy Stitcher cross stitch journal, I used that UFO tracker and made a list of all of my pieces that need to be finished in some sort of fashion. So while I was going through that, I did find one escapee. So this piece, I'm going to show you this one first because it's loose. This is Melancholy. This was a stitch along that I did with Emily, Diana, It Is Kismet Stitches, and Michelle Bendy. And this is a piece by Not Forgotten Farm. I had put this in my FFO bag because I wasn't really sure how I wanted to finish it, but now I'm thinking I want to frame it. So I'm moving it over to the framing pile. But there's that. And I think I picked my own overdyes for that. Maybe, maybe not. All right, I don't know how this is gonna work, but all right, yeah. Okay. Okay, so that was the first one. Here's the next one. This is Athena Noctua. I think this is by Ink Circles. I love this. Absolutely love this. This is based on a Greek coin, and I really want to frame this to go over my desk. I've just been looking for the right frame for it and haven't found one. But this is like priority to frame because it's not that big and I really want it over my desk. This one you've seen recently. This is Moonsick by the Primitive Needle. This was for the full moon sow. And I stitched this on 40 count Duxbury. Most of these are on 40 count. And some of them I remember, some of them I don't. I think this might be doubloon. Picture this plus, maybe. I don't know. This is Duxbury. I love it. This is another one that is high on my list to frame because I would like to hang it with my moon phases piece by the Little Stitcher. This is Mary Snow. And I stitched this last year. This was a sow with Christy from Crosshatch Quilts that we started on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, like 2021. And then I finished it early last year. Love that. That will eventually go on my bird / swan wall. This is another Primitive Needle. This is Blacked Sky. This is on the called for vintage pair, Lakeside Linen, with the called for purely primitive silks, pure palette silks. And this one and Tombstone Spots and one other piece I want to frame and hang together. So this is lower on the priority list. This was another sow that I did with Emily and Diana and Michelle. This was the damn bird sow. This is the partridge from one of the Blackbird Designs books. I love him. So see, some of them are not really big, and so, you know, theoretically they should be easier to frame. I just need to do that. All right, this is Women of the Mayflower. And I kind of picked my own colors because this was originally charted in Old Willow Stitchery threads. And so I just did my own conversion. And I think this might be on 40 count Mellow. That was a stitch along that Sylvia and I did in 2020. And we started it like the day that the Mayflowers set sail and then tried to finish it before they landed. So this one was a stitch along with Christine, Hollis Hands Creates, and Becky Socks for Mom. This is Blackbird Designs something at First Cock's Crow. And this is on 40 count weeks cocoa, I believe. Love that. All right, this is a 3-in-1. This is Plum Street Samplers Hallow Eden, which needs to go on my Adam and Eve wall. Combined with Self-Isolating Bat from Night Spirit Studio. And then this Be Well from Lucy Beam. Both of these were stitched like right at the beginning of the pandemic. Emily and I stitched this one together. So she's got hers framed. I think I'm going to choose the same frame for mine, maybe. This is Colonial Garden by Plum Street Samplers. I stitched this for Eric for an anniversary 1 year, and it's still not framed. This one, once it's framed, will go up in our bedroom with the other pieces that I've stitched for him. I love this. This was a pain in the ass to stitch, but I love it. And I stitched this with the called for MPIs. And it's on 40 count Black Forest. This one is Primitive Needle. This is Sampler Sisters. So, I love this one. This is on 40 count Mellow. I'm probably going to say I love this one for all of them. But I forgot how many like cool things I finished. All right, this is The Crown Bird by Plum Street. And this was originally a class that was a workshop that was done for Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. Paulette designed this for our guild. I did change the verse. So it's a big one. Love that big red house though. Okay. Problems. Yep, problems. All right. This is a little piece that was in, I think, Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly. And it's on Lambswell, I think. Bleh. Pretty though. This one is another one that's super high on my list because I have a place to hang it. This is also Primitive Needle. This is Salem Village. After I saw Abby Bella stitch this, I had to stitch it. This is on 40 count Dapple. I love it. So this one's high on my list too. This is Blackbird Designs Winter Delivery, I think. I love this. And it's on, I think, 30 count Cranberry Bog by R&R, which I don't think they make anymore. Love it. This one, the jury's still out on this one. I don't know if I'm going to frame it or not, but I have it in here to frame. This is my Primitive Wizard of Oz, which I love. I just don't know. Like, this would probably be one of the last things I make a decision about. But it was a fun little piece. This is a piece that was designed for a retreat that I went on. It's just a fun fall piece. Talk about misuse of fabric. Yeah. This is Primitive Needle Earth Sampler. I love that one. And much apologies if you can hear my husband in the background. He's all worked up, talking. I love this. This is an old finish that I did back in 2012 that is still in here, not framed. This is Margaret Cottam. This is by Lottie Daw. This was a mystery sampler that she did in 3 parts. I did it when it was a mystery sampler, and I finished each part as it came. I love this one so much. I did it on 40 count cocoa. It's just so pretty. It definitely needs to be framed. They all do. It's sad that they're not. And then the last piece, also super sad that it's not framed, is my Anniversaries of the Heart. Why is this not framed? Because it's huge and it would be expensive. That's why. But it needs to be framed for sure. For sure. So, all right. So that is what is in my bag of tricks. So all of those pieces need to be framed. I would like to have them framed. Like I said, there's just that one that's that's iffy. But that's what I'm going to work towards this year, is trying to see how many of these I can get framed and get out of this project roll. And the first 3 that are priority are my Salem Village and my Athena Noctua and my Moonsick. I think those are the priorities first off. And these 2 obviously are quite small. Moonsick isn't that big either. So, and if you have recommendations on places that do framing, where I can order frames without too much expense, let me know. So I'm not going to Michael's or any of those places. I'm not doing that. So, but a place that I can order frames, either pre-made or custom sized, let me know. All right. So, and then next time I will show you my bag of stuff that needs to be FFO'd. All right, real quick, we're going to talk about books, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So, I set my Goodreads challenge to 50 books again for this year. I made it by the skin of my teeth last year. And so the first thing that I picked up to read this year was Dream Fever. This is book 4 in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. I had started reading this series with some friends at the end of last year. And so the first thing I did was pick up book 4 to read. I think I talked about this baloney. Still hoping that I can replace this at some point, but it is a hardback. So I read this, very much enjoyed it, loved this series. And then that book ends on kind of a cliffhanger, so I jumped right into this one. Now, this is the first one that I had purchased when I previously read these books. I had borrowed the first 4. That ended on a cliffhanger. I went out the next day at lunch and bought this, which is book 5, which is Shadow Fever. So I already had this. I'm probably going to replace this with a hardback at some point, but I figured, you know what? I'm just going to read my paperback that I have, and, I'll see about replacing it at some point in the future. So I read this. I talked a lot on my new Instagram, Invoking Beauty, about this book. I posted about this book there and kind of my thoughts about it and some of the things that it brought up for me. So if you're interested in that, go check out that post. And then the next book that I read was the next book in the series, which is Iced, which is probably my least favorite of the whole series, but it is what it is. So, Iced. So read that. I finished this one right at the end of January, on the 30th. And then I decided, some friends of mine were talking about reading Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which had just come out, but I've never read The Ninth House. And some of them had read The Ninth House, but kind of forgot it. So we decided that we would read The Ninth House together. So I'm taking a little break from the Fever series, and I'm reading The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And I've got about 100 pages left. It is so good. It's so good. And Christine, you asked me to tell you if there were more kind of books, like dark academia books that I could recommend. This is one of them. So go read The Ninth House if you haven't read it. If you like dark academia with that kind of paranormal twist to it, highly, highly recommend. And I'm not even done with it yet. So yeah, it's good. It's really good. So when I finish this, I'm probably going to go back to my Fever series before I jump into Hellbent, because I don't want to just race through it. So yeah, so that's my plan. So I think that's all that I have. I really appreciate everyone's feedback on kind of my new format with doing the little vlog clips, as well as, doing kind of a proper update. So I'll probably just continue to do that. And I also appreciate everyone that has followed me over at my new Instagram account, Invoking Beauty. I am behind on doing blog posts and show notes and all of that good stuff on both blogs. So at some point I will get to that, but at the moment I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. So it may be a little while. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for, liking and subscribing and commenting and all that good stuff. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that you are enjoying your stitching. I hope you're enjoying your February. We had a big ice storm here last week, but then 2 days ago it was like almost 80 degrees. And then now today it's 40 degrees again. So that's February in Texas. So yeah, just taking it one day at a time. So, all right, friends. Well, happy stitching, happy reading, and we'll talk soon. Bye.